I would like to do an update video to a reference of a video that I did previously in the past. It was entitled "Are You Being Gangstalked?" I'm gonna do a revised, updated version, audio version of "Are You Being Gangstalked?" That's the question I pose. Are strange things happening to you? Do you encounter often strangers of such that you have never ever seen before a day in your life that are waiting at train stations for you? When you arrive, the same individual that you've never seen before in your life, do they scratch their head? If they're wearing a baseball cap, do they raise it up and put it back on? Do they neatly straighten it out in a way that looks weird because it's happening within meters of the distance you are? Do strangers often look at you and spit on the ground? We know that spitting on the ground, young people might do it, but it's pretty odd to see an elderly woman um, wearing a head wrap spitting on the ground. And I mean in her 60s. Do people glare at you and spit on the ground? Is your mail being tampered with? Looking like that someone has gone through it, which is a serious federal offense? Do items in your house come up missing? Expensive watches, jewelry, loss of a cell phone? Do your electronics um, start to flip through the screen by themselves? Your tablet, your phone? Um, do they lock the SIM card? Is your electronics um, volume going down and turning back up on its own? Do you often experience your electronics just suddenly cutting off, or strange occurrences of your battery dying at the point that you're trying to record something that might be important, imperative to the situation? Does the spouse that you're with often gaslight you and get into frivolous arguments about meaningless, petty things for absolutely no reason at all? Do you feel that people are trying to emotionally provoke you to a response to get a desired outcome or to achieve a very insidious or nefarious agenda? Do you often feel watched for no reason at all? When you walk your dog, do you get mass amounts of synchronicity of the same individuals but in different time spurts walking their dogs? Do you feel that the same time exit entry is inconspicuous because it's impossible for these people to be synced up on your itinerary on an everyday basis? Do you have tenants that are antisocial, belligerent? Are you followed by women who suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's? I say that because property rentals often will use elderly women with mental disorders to perform same time exit entry and to follow targets for short distances out of the community. Do you see an influx of police and ambulance once you're about on foot on the streets? Do you often see cars parked to the left or the right side of the road with their hazards or signal lights on? I encourage you to stick around for a minute. What you see will lead you to confirm what you believe. Do they often pull off, but you see no one exiting the vehicle or being picked up shortly after your arrival? Are you seeing color harassment where people are wearing all red and there's suddenly a parade of people wearing red and people carrying red objects and waving them or taunting them and flaunting them in front of you? Do people cough very loudly at you? Mm. Do you experience rudeness when you go out shopping by clerks? Is your personal space being invaded? Are you being unrecognized when you're in line? Are people cutting in front of you at banks and at shopping malls and checkout areas? Are people always constantly loitering around um, the cash register when you're making a purchase? Have you noticed people who actually will decide to come into the shop at the same time as you? Have you tested it out to actually exit the shop just as quickly as you entered the shop and you see that same individual exit with you? They were not buying anything, were they? Have you noticed your neighbors or a neighbor actually come into your job and you formally know that that neighbor is harassing you and working with corrupt police? Do you feel that these stage encounters are specifically to set you up for a reaction for a desired outcome and it's rooted in criminal activity? Are you often tired, exhausted, and you just woke up after sleeping 9 hours? Do you hear bumps, bangs on the walls frequently? Are you insulted and threatened with physical violence when you kindly ask the neighbors to be quiet? Are you met with serious aggression that if you perform these same acts, the police would be there in 0.25 seconds, but it's okay for others to do them to you, and it's totally fine? Have you noticed your clothes being damaged, holes being poked in the arm section of your t-shirts, the soles at the bottom of the back of your shoes being ripped apart? Do you see trash all over your front area of your residence? Are you being blamed for not picking up your dog's crap, but yet you go out and you pick up your dog's crap all the time and actually you're the one stepping in other dogs' crap? Have you noticed that the feces that you discarded in the waste bin is somehow made its way back out onto the streets even though you know for sure that you threw it away? This is a gaslighting technique. The stalkers will monitor you and come behind you and then throw it back onto the streets to make it seem like you're crazy and you just throw your dog shit on the streets with no regard. Do you often get slander? Do people call the police on you for absolutely nothing at all? Are people just coming up to you making random comments about you being crazy and you've said or did nothing of such? Are you living in a subsidized low-income housing area where uneducated people can be severely taken advantage of and they can be exploited for other sinister purposes? Are tires screeching and squealing when you're exiting out of parking lots? Do you often get rude glares from people in the droves of 5 to 10 people at a time? Do you often have to tell people to give you a little bit of personal space? You know, as grown adults, especially educated adults, we all know that anything between 5 to 10 meters of distance between a person you don't know is violation of a person's personal space. If you would have to tell someone this, that person either has to be mentally ill or they have to be a stalker. There's no in between. Have you noticed the weird sporadic influx of cars arriving when you go for walks or you go out your exit your premises, your place of living, do you often see the traffic pick up to the point where it's like unbelievable? Do you see often fake car accidents where um, it looks like it's been an accident, but yet there's nothing on the ground, no cars damaged, and the minute you look back out the window, everyone's gone? But yet it was 5 to 6 police cars out there with other cars and witnesses. Now everyone's gone. Do you receive weird emails from strangers or from people or from companies, or um, do you get weird types of requests from random strangers on dating sites or social media sites? Do people comment on things that you have just previously said with pinpoint accuracy? Are strangers that you've never met before using directed conversation and talking about situations in your life that you've never divulged or said to anyone? Do you often get diarrhea? Do you feel sad at times for no reason at all? The reason why I say that is because some of these perps will stick destabilizers, soils, and sedatives and other types of uh, things that are not lethal, but yet have an effect on you. Have you come home to find your windows open and you know that you closed them? Have you had your chairs in your kitchen be unscrewed? You know, this is a reference pertaining to you having a screw loose. It's very sick that they would actually, they could not just say it to your face, that they would actually break into your house and actually unscrew screws in your chair and then, reference that a screw is loose. Guys, let me tell you something. Contrary to what you think, you know why you're being followed by a lot of people in walkers and canes and strollers and wheelchairs and people who seem like they've been through a psych ward or they're mentally ill? Because the program uses these people. Psych wards send these people out to targets. They love to put targeted individuals in a mentally ill, sick, negative environment. They know that it will affect you if you begin to give it your attention. Are strangers just coming up to you randomly out of nowhere, desperate to talk to you? Have you been gang stalked at hospitals? I know I was. The hospital where my daughter was born. Middle Eastern guy actually sat there with his two daughters and they both took pictures of the mother of my daughter and her mother and her little 5-year-old daughter, which was a big violation of child protection laws over here in Germany. They photographed a minor, a 5-year-old girl, and a pregnant woman just to fuck with me. The man actually came down to the train station as I was buying a coffee, staring only at me. It was only me and him there in the train station, and I was inside of a store buying a cup of coffee. The guy actually walked up, stared at me, mimicked me by buying the same size coffee, and followed me all the way back to the hospital, up into the room where the mother of my daughter was. Come to find out, this area where the mother of my daughter was at is the Kreisel area where only people who are pregnant. Neither one of his daughters were pregnant. Yet they sat there and took pictures of us and then left. I was informed by the mother of my daughter that that man actually was sitting there staring at them for over an hour. What would make him come down to the train station and meet me after sitting there staring at the mother of my daughter in an area of a hospital where only pregnant women belong. That's sick ass Germany for you guys. That's Hamburg for you. Anyway, are people trying to take you to court for saying that they're racist or that they're discriminating against you? Are your human and civil rights being violated while yet the whole entire city or community is plagued with crime and violence and murder and drugs and terrorism? Ask yourself, how can these individuals operate and commit the crimes they commit and no one's being arrested for them, such as the death of elderly women in Wandsbek, such as people being found chopped up in the river. But yet, the same police got all the time in the world to actually have people come around and cough at you and call you crazy. At this point, do people always reference that they're going to call the police on you or that you're crazy and they're going to, and or both? You're being gang stalked. If any of the above is happening to you on a regular occurrence and you stay to yourself and you don't bother anyone and you abide by the laws and you mind your business, you are being gang stalked. Are your job or your coworkers rude? Do customers come in and harass you at your job but are nice to other people? Do you feel indifferent? Have you been a victim of narcissistic abuse or satanic ritual abuse known as SRA? Do you feel that you're surrounded and these staged encounters encompass people who are mentally unstable? You're being gang stalked. Do you smell weird odors in your apartment? You're being gang stalked. Anyway, it's good to ask yourself these questions and then understand that these people are cowards and that you need to work on never approaching them, never talking to them, never give them a line of communication, never go stupid places at stupid hours, especially by yourself. Avoid walking the streets if you can at night on foot. Never go to clubs by yourself and drink. Never take anything from anyone. I'm talking about drugs. Never talk to people that you do not know about your situation. If you are stopped by the police, be respectful, be nice. Yes, no. Don't laugh, don't smile. Never question how they think, what they think, how they feel. Never assert your rights or your laws in a very aggressive way. Know your rights, know the law, and stay out of the setups, because gang stalking is made to make you look crazy, to discredit you. It's designed to mimic mental illness, and they're further stripping other people's rights away. It's basically fascism on steroids. Since they can't just lock people up for no reason at all, no viable reason, they figure they'll just use McCarthyism, or what's known as the psychiatric appraisal. Watch out for your family members, spouses, lovers, honeypot traps who have been recruited and will try to elicit a reaction out of you. And after they start an argument with you, they'll actually tell you you need to go do something that's going to make you happy when they actually brought some drama to you. Keep the emotional reaction to a minimal if possible. I understand it might come out, but it's in your best interest to do so. Never sign any waivers, any papers, any forms, anything from any social services or any offices pertaining to law enforcement without the advisory of a lawyer or someone who is classified in understanding legal documents. Never be afraid to actually ask, but keep things in a general sense. Never tell any doctors that you feel you're being followed or watched. Never, ever, ever, because everyone's being watched. That's the truth of the matter, okay? We're in the age of Orwellianism, and that's the way it's going to be.